Friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Chetan. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic, and it is related to the day-to-day problems of students and business professionals, where they find a problem in retaining a material that they've read. So let's dive in for the today's topic, that is thinking and retention. Have you ever wondered why reading once or hearing the material once is not enough? Have you ever wondered about that? That even if you give time, then it does not happen to you. So the question rises, how can we exactly remember what we've read? So in this video, we will try to cover some important and powerful techniques which will help you to make the ideas more easy to remember. Talking about, you know, different things. Basically, we will be talking about active engagement, connecting with new ideas and with what we already know, and summarizing, visualizing, applying information, repeating and reviewing, and even creating emotional connections. It's doing more than just passively reading. So, what is active engagement? It's basically engaging with the material more actively. So, at the risk of repeating the actual definition with the name, I would like to say that basically it forces the brain to try to actively engage with the material. It gets involved and it does a little bit of extra work so that it can remember the details that it has worked with. And this extra work basically helps in strengthening our memory. So active engagement remains very important in the process of learning and retention. You can also note down the questions, you can underline the key points, and you can also summarize in your own words. There's no need to worry about the material, how long it is. You can just go through it and identify the key points. And by doing this, you are actually engaging on a deeper level, and that helps us. When we relate new ideas to things we already know, we create a network of associations, making it easy to remember. Benefits. It creates hooks. It creates hooks in your mental network. And while trying to remember, when you will try to remember something by these, associations, those hooks will take you back to what you had studied. So, for example, you can relate the human. If you're going, for example, you're studying the human circulatory system of the body, of course. So you can relate it to the the road system, the traffic system, the whole traffic system. You can relate to that, where the heart can be the hub, the arteries and veins can be the roads, and you can create an analogy which will make you remember, okay, so this is like this. And you can, by noting down smallest points, you can also know the difference, that actually it is not, of course it's not the same, but it's something like that. Gives our memory a basic framework to work upon. So these associations will be like a scaffolding for your memory architecture. That is why it becomes important. We can also, strengthen our retention by summarizing what we've read in our own words, and that does not have to be, um, very tough words, but it has to be kept in mind that most of the most important points have been taken care of. They are in our summary. So it basically helps us to focus on the core ideas. When we are selective in putting information to our summary, so the core ideas are taken care of, and it becomes clear what we really need to learn, and further pathway becomes clear to reproduce it in the places that we want to reproduce it to. For example, if we have to take care of a long article about nutrition for people who have a mathematical background and who have a non-biological background. If they're going for tough exams like civil services, they would have to read a plethora of subjects that they are not related to. An engineer goes on and has to learn about nutrition. It's a long article, what to do. So first of all, we don't need to remember every small detail. But of course, we have to look at the core idea. So what we can do is we can basically take away the core um, ideas and key takeaways, and we can just jot them down. Like eat whole foods, limit sugar, get plenty of protein and fiber. It becomes really easy for us to remember the big picture. Next technique is visualization. It means turning ideas into mental images or diagrams. We all know that a picture talks about 1,000 words. So the actual matter is that our brain is really good at visualizing things and remembering the visual cues. So that's how visualization can really create a revolution in our learning. For example, we are studying parts of a plant. While reading, try to visualize those parts. And from usual references, you can easily visualize those things. Generally, it becomes a little tough for us to, if to visualize something that we have not really seen. But if there is something that we've already had some visual exposure to, then visualization can really help us get the hang of it. What we can do is we don't have to be like artists or you not necessarily visualization does not only have to be on your mind. You can also draw on your paper, and doodles can also work. So that we can easily recall with our text, whatever we are trying to practice or remember. We can also doodle that stuff. Now, what's application? It is one of the best ways to reinforce the memory. It's all about learning in a practical way. A practical way means is to bring down the theory to your use. You're using it in your real life. When we use something theoretical into the practical plane, it becomes relevant. Suddenly, we know the nitty-gritties of it beyond the theory, and it becomes a part of our memory. We can really talk about it. So that is the usefulness of application in terms of thinking and retention. Now, for example, if you're learning a new language, generally people start with going with the vocabulary, but that may not create the effect that's needed. So even if you're learning the new words, you can try to use it in your daily conversations or something that you usually use. You can bring in the new element of that vocabulary in that sentence. So sentence formation generally, consolidates your learning. So once you've used it, your mind is convinced that it is real and it is usable. So you are able to, replicate that effort again. And because it gives you a favorable outcome out of your efforts, it becomes a habit as soon as possible. One of the usual ways of learning is repetition review. When people try to learn something, they go over and over again. But here, what the difference that I want to suggest is, if you are really trying to, use repetition to make things stick, you have to do it after some time period, so that whatever new that you want to learn, if there is a knowledge gap that is created, you can recognize that while the second repetition, and you can give your specific focus on those topics or those lines that you've forgotten, and that will go on to the further and further spaced repetitions that you're going to go. So it's a stratified method, and on the longer run, it's going to really consolidate your knowledge, so you can use repetition review to your benefit. If you want to, like, yeah, you know about it already, that you usually, during exams, if you go over and over again with the material, then you have a proper sense of clarity about it. But instead, if you try cramming, then it might just go, or it might just miss at the moment of truth. That usually happens. So because it reinforces memory pathways each time, it is really useful to use spaced repetition and review techniques for retention. Now, this is unusual, but emotional engagement is one of the ways that makes theories and concepts and ideas stick to your mind. Since our brain is tied to emotions and feelings, those ideas about which we think emotionally, they tend to stick with us. And that is how our memory becomes really boosted. So, for example, studying history, we can think about how those people might have felt living through those events. For example, revolt of 1857, and you're studying about Rani Lakshmi Bai, and even if you can think like the British to know how they might have exactly felt and how why they did what they did, and basically try to, if they wanted to avert, how did they get over the revolt of 1857, how what they did logically to what they did later to avert similar struggles, right? Imagining the emotional impact can make the facts feel more real and memorable. Again, they become relevant. They become relevant, and your mind is focused on those emotions, and suddenly those ideas come back to you. So, this is the power of associating your emotions to the material that you've read. Now, so far, I'll just quickly read uh, what we have already discussed. We have discussed active engagement, creating connections, summarizing, visualizing, applying what we have already learned, repeating and reviewing, and creating emotional connections. Try using one or two and try to use them on, next time. You have to remember that you should start small to observe what you've really learned. Just don't apply it to something really humongous, but start small and see how it impacts your memory. So these are really powerful techniques, but they should be, to understand their benefit, we have to start small. Now, if you find these tips helpful, please hit that like button. Share it with the friends that you think they might need, or your kid, kids around you, a brother, a sibling that you care about, your other friends in your business, and you might also help them who you think that who need a memory boost. Stay safe.